really, or you can see the iPad, but never mind, that doesn't matter. So here is our little gift card holder. If you want to make it into a bank card holder as a present, absolutely fine. Hello, Janet. Hello, Marilyn. So with this, you've probably seen these before, but it's well worth, I've done it as a single pouch before, but then this time it has two. So you can put one card down here and one card up here, and then it folds. And I've even put a little handmade tag, which there are some of those on the website. I think they're 10 for £2, handmade with love on them. Some are in black, some are in brown, sepia, you know. So this is what we are going to make tonight. I can pop it up. There we are. And the usual cam snap. And as some of you were asking last night for cam snaps, they are on the website too in lots of colours. Yes, it's quite a nice addition, isn't it? Good afternoon, Amanda. I like the little tags. If I remember to put them on, I think it's always good to do that. Right, let's have a look. So what do we need? Not too much, actually. So there are two outer pieces of fabric, which I have used this. There we are. I have used this beautiful green fabric here. The lighter green one. It's cream and dark green. So I'm using this fabric to make it. So if you were using a panel, you would have more than enough. It depends what you're going to do with those panels, but I think there's more than enough to border some placemats and have some left over. So I have already, hello Margot. I have already cut my pieces out, and I think they are 8 by 4. And I have actually, on this occasion, I've cut my fusible fleece slightly narrower, so half an inch less, 7.5 by 3.5, because I do like the finish when you haven't got the fusible fleece in the seams. So that's going to be my outer piece. And with my inner piece, I've taken the fabric here. All we need to do, so we need those two. We also need 4 squares, which are 3 inches square. So what we're going to do with these, we are going to place them on the right side of the lining, like so, and place it into a corner so that my fold, which is no raw edges, the fold is in the middle. So I'm going to use pins to hold this in place to begin with. And then with my squares, I folded them in half and pressed them. And then I'm going to line up this corner to the corner of my lining piece. So now that I've got that lined up, I am going to pop a pin there just to hold that nicely. And then I'm also going to hold one at the side here because I want that to be perfectly aligned. We don't want it to fall out of our seam once we stitch. So let's just pop one in there. And I'm just going to have a look. So with my other two pieces, we are going to have, so the fold edge is here. I need the fold edge to be here. So I am going to place that basically point to point at this side. And again, I'm just going to put another pin in here just to hold that, like so. So I've got 2, and then I've got my 4th one, and that one just needing the folded edge to go anywhere within the middle, and pop that along, and that should go in there. There we are. So that just overlaps slightly there. Right, so let's just pop a pin at the top. I might even put a little clip over this where the two come together, just to hold those nicely in place. And this one here, so you can see that it just overlaps just slightly, but we'll put a pin in place or a clip in place there. And then just make sure that is just under 2.5. Just make sure, there we are, that side is the same distance as it is there. So the first thing I am going to do, no, it's not going to be the first. The first thing I'm going, well, it is. The first thing I'm going to do is I will put a pin just where these points are. Okay, so just holding that, so that's all held in line along here, because I do need to fold this over, because we've got raw edges at the top here. So if we fold that over, like so, and across to the other edge, you can feel that. You could press that there if you want to, but I'm going to do a very small seam along here. There we go. 1/8 of an inch, I think we might be. And there we go. And I'm just going to stitch along here. My pin wasn't in the way. And let's have a look now. So that when I open that out, those seams, those raw edges are encased along there. Okay. So what you could do, and I will do, is stitch along that edge as well, just for a nice finish here. So just stitch across there, just adds a little bit to it, just there. Okay. And now I'm going to stitch around these edges just to hold these in place. So I am going to also stitch, it's going to be about 1/8 of an inch from the edge, but that is just going to hold those pieces together with our lining. Whoops. Right, one more there. So take that pin out of the way, and then we're going to come across here. I'm going to put my pin there to make sure that doesn't stick up, and stitch across there, just making sure, because I think that's just moved a little bit. It has as well. So as it's moved, even though I'd got my pin in, I'm just going to unpick this. It's because I was going, so I'm just going to put you can see where I've got a little lump of fabric, and I don't want that. So I'm just unpicking to that piece there, and I'm going to hold down on this corner because I want this, I want this to be absolutely flush to my background fabric. Okay, and then we're going to go up this side just to hold those layers together. What I might do is, it doesn't really matter, I'm going to make sure that triangle is going over the top of this one underneath, and that way, there we go. So we've got that all nicely enclosed now. I've got a tiny little bit sticking out there, and a tiny bit there, and we'll take the pin out from there. So all we need to do now is place our pocketed bit right sides together with our outer piece, and we'll put a pin at these corners, and because we want these to line up beautifully. And you will notice now that the outer fabric is slightly longer, but we'll trim that off afterwards. Okay, so we're going to push that up there, line that up, and it probably wouldn't even matter if we left that in, because it's only a small piece of fabric there. Okay, so we are going to stitch all the way around the edge, but we are going to leave a gap. So I am going to leave a gap. I'm going to leave a gap along the top edge, and because down here, we've got layers of fusible fleece and fabric. It will be harder to turn that in. So it would be better to leave a gap along the top. So I'm going to leave it fairly big, probably at least a couple of inches. And I'm going to reverse to start and go to the side. And then we'll stitch down this edge. And there we go. So we're going around down here. We're making sure all those edges are caught in. And we're using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'll do one more. And we'll come across the bottom here. And you'll see that it's a little bit further in than our stay stitching, which holds it all together. And carry on up this side. As I say, it is nice and easy. Let's pull that up here and stitch up to this corner. And where are we there? And then we will stitch across just probably an inch or two. There we are. So we've left a nice opening there. So as that is a narrow opening, what I'm going to do to help is I'm just going to fold this little bit back and give it a little finger press so that when we come to turning it, turning this in, it's going to meet up quite nicely. Now, I've got interfacing on there or wadding on there, so that is not going to be as easy. So we will just turn that back, and that is going to, and I'll give that a little nail press across there, and we will now trim off these points. Now, not too close to the edges, although, you know, we have got nice small stitching, and now we can just turn this through. And the reason, as I say, for having the larger opening is so that the rest of the gift holder will go through the opening very, very easily, which it has. Okay, there we are. So let's just pull that out a little bit more. And the pockets come to life. Now, the pocket actually at the minute is on the wrong side, so we want it to go the other way. There we are. So through the gap, I'm going to put my trusty paintbrush, which is how I push my seams out, and then into this one at the top, which we trimmed those points so that we get a nice little point on the top there. And similarly here. Oh, hello, Marilyn. Oh, Susan, you found me today. Jolly good. Okay. So we've got that all turned through. I might just see if I can pull out. Now, sometimes I use my seam ripper just to ease those corners out just that little bit more. And I push the point in and just ease that outwards. That one looks all right. That one looks all right. And I'm just going to tuck this in so that these edges meet nicely. It's not often that I turn the seam allowance in on that top edge, which is why I want that to be nice and neat. And I might even give it a little bit of steam. So having tucked that in, I'm going to put a pin just to hold that nicely. And here, because we want it to look, well, we don't want it to look as if we've closed our gap along the top edge. So let's just pop that pin in there and in here. like that. And then I'm just going to give that a little steam. And then, got a little bit of thread coming out there. I'm going to top stitch around the edges. So I think that's about ready. So I've just taken that away to the iron just to give that a nice press. Now I think the top there looks really nice now. So we can start, I think I might even start down here at this point, and I'm going to stitch all the way around the edge. So I've got my narrow foot on so that I can hopefully get a nice neat edge along here, and just keep tucking this bit in just so that we get a really neat edge along the top. Just pull that pin out just before we get to it, and then come down the other side, and this will just hold it. You don't want to go in 1/4 of an inch, otherwise it will reduce the width of the pockets for your card, and then it might be a tight fix for the cards to go in there, but it just gives a nice smart finish by stitching around the edge, and it just basically finishes it off. So I'm probably going in 1/16 of an inch, something like that, and then finish a couple of stitches over where I started. So just clip that away. That's my daughter. She'll say, oh my goodness, I forgot Mum was on there. Okay, so all that's going to happen now is we are going to fold that up and fold that down. Easy peasy. So we can, if you want to make it, see how that fits there to there really nicely. I'm just going to press that bottom so it, there we go, holds even better. And then we need to find the center point along here, which is, that is 3, there we are, 3.5. So 1 3/4. So 1 3/4 is just there. Right, so I've made my little mark there, and I'm just going to get my my cutting tool. So I'm going to make a hole in there, and what we can do, as I've got a hole in there, let's fold this back up, fold that over, and then we can make a little mark through here as well. Okay, so we'll make that little mark there, and let's push that. So with having made my mark on this one here, I can pop a little hole in there, and then having found my green, I think that one might work. We can have the green, or we could have the brown. Brown might be okay. And I've forgotten to put my tab in. I've forgotten to put my little handmade. How irritating, but never mind. Never mind, done it now. So let's just, having too much fun and forget to do one little thing. So let's have the brown, and I need another one of those. So let us take our button. This is on the front, and which is where I pop. Oh, there we are. Where I pop the outie. So buttons in, outie on there, button. There we go. And I can feel that that's right. So squeeze that down, and then on the other one we want the button to come from the inside. There's that little hole there, and we can put the innie there. So the pliers go around there and squeeze. And there we are, all done, just like that. So there is our first one, and there is our second. And doesn't it look better if I had popped my little handmade, but I haven't. And as I've top stitched all the way around, I'm not going to take that off now. So what could we do? What we perhaps could do is tuck that in there, and I might hand sew, or actually I know what I could do. I could use a little bit of fabric glue. That's what we'll do, and tuck it in there. So I've got my fabric glue somewhere around here, but that's what I'm going to do. So where that flap comes up, I'm going to put a little bit of fabric glue under there, or on both sides, and it can tuck in there. I think this one could very well be addictive. Yes. So nice and straightforward. What we haven't even taken, well, about half an hour, and it hasn't even taken that. So 2 pieces of fabric, 8x4. As I say, I did cut my fusible fleece at 7.5 by 3.5, and then 4 3-inch squares, which are folded in half and pressed and placed on the inside so that they overlap, or they overlap at the top and the bottom, but they just about meet at those sides there. So nice and easy, very useful gift. And if you wanted to make it bigger, wider, you could use just wider dimensions, and with the same. So this was, what did I say, 4 inches wide. You might want to do it 6 inches wide, 8 inches long, so that it folds down and gives you this effect. Okay, so I'll just do a little recap of what we are. There we go. That's it. Here we go. That's the wrong way. You don't want to see there. Oh, goodness, where's it gone now? Now I can't see. There we go. You can see that terrible mess behind me, or in front of me, actually. So just for a little recap for some of you that came in late, the offers for today are in the way of panels. So we have the dark green, and I bet I put it the wrong way around. No. So the dark green panel with 1/2 metre of coordinating fabric, which I've used this evening, is £15. Or you could have the cream panel. Oops, here we go. So there is the cream version, all gold foiling on there, absolutely stunning, by Macawa, as they usually are, plus 1/2 metre of the coordinating holly fabric. As you see, it is lovely. You see all that gold? It's just beautiful on its own. So there's that one, which is the Christmas Good Tidings panel by Macawa, £15 for 1/2 metre plus the panel. And then the final one is the stocking, which there's 2 stocking pieces, one on that side and one on that side, with tags as well. And with that one, for £15, you get 1 metre of thermolam. And this is your thermolam. There's not 1 metre there, but this is just to show you what it's like. Useful for bags, for wall hangings, for placemats, all sorts of things. Even if you wanted to make the little card holder wallets that we've made tonight, you could put thermolam in here, just that little bit thicker. But that is it. And as I say, if you buy any of the products from tonight or last night, you will get the full 5 sets of instructions for all 5 projects. These are first 2. This one and yesterday's has gone away from me, but it was a little glasses case. They will all come with your orders. When I post them, it will be next Monday, when all the orders are in through the week, and I shall pack them up at the weekend and they'll go off on Monday. So I thank you for joining me tonight. It's left me a little while to get ready for 6:30 when I'm in the Sew with Trisha group, and we will be making that lovely little strip and zip pouch. So thank you for joining me, and I'll see you shortly. Bye for now.